Hello, everyone. I want to tell you about two people. Both of them want to learn English. Both of them feel the same desire for fluency. Both of them have roughly the same amount of time each day. But 1 year from now, their English will be completely different. Not because of talent. Not because of luck. Because of one thing only. What they do every single day when no one is watching. The first person waits for motivation. They study when they feel inspired. They practice when conditions feel perfect. They push hard for a week, then stop for 2 weeks, then push hard again. Their progress is real but slow. Their confidence rises and falls with their mood. And every time they stop, they feel a little more like someone who cannot finish what they start. The second person does not wait for motivation. They do not need to feel inspired to sit down and practice. They have built something the first person has not yet discovered. Not willpower. Not talent. Discipline. Quiet. Consistent. Daily discipline. And that discipline is changing their English, their confidence, and the entire trajectory of their life. Here is the truth that most people resist. Motivation is a feeling. And feelings come and go. Discipline is a decision. And decisions can be made regardless of how you feel. The people who build extraordinary English fluency are not the ones who feel more motivated than you. They are the ones who have learned to act without waiting for motivation to arrive. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what quiet discipline is, why it is more powerful than motivation, how it builds the kind of English fluency that lasts, and how you can start developing it today. Not someday. Today. Because the life you want begins with the discipline you choose right now. Part 1. The myth of motivation. Most people believe that the secret to achieving their goals is finding enough motivation. If they could just feel motivated enough, they would study every day. If they could just feel inspired enough, they would practice their English consistently. If they could just get excited enough, they would do what needs to be done. This belief is not just wrong. It is the reason most people never reach their goals. Because motivation is the most unreliable resource available to a human being. It is emotional. It fluctuates. It depends on your mood, your energy, your circumstances, and 1,000 other factors you cannot control. Research by psychologist Roy Baumeister at Florida State University showed that motivation and willpower operate like a muscle that fatigues with use. After exerting effort on one task, people have less motivational energy available for the next task. This is called ego depletion. It means that waiting for motivation to show up is not a strategy. It is a trap. The most successful learners, athletes, artists, and professionals in the world are not the most motivated. Studies consistently show they are the most habitual. They have built systems and routines that make action automatic, so they do not need to rely on motivation at all. They show up because showing up is simply what they do. For English learners, this is profoundly liberating. You do not need to feel motivated to improve your English. You need to build the habit of daily practice until it runs on autopilot. Until sitting down to practice feels as natural and automatic as brushing your teeth. And when that habit is built, your English will improve regardless of how you feel on any given day. Part 2. What quiet discipline really is. Quiet discipline is not about being hard on yourself. It is not about forcing yourself through pain. It is not about white-knuckling your way through activities you hate. People who think discipline means suffering are confusing discipline with punishment. Real discipline is quieter than that. It is the simple, daily practice of doing what you said you would do, even when it is inconvenient, even when you do not feel like it, even when nobody is watching or measuring. It is the decision to honor your commitment to yourself, even when your emotions are pulling in a different direction. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, one of the best-selling books on behavior change of the past decade, puts it this way: every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Each time you practice English, even for just 10 minutes, you are casting a vote for the identity of someone who speaks English. And over time, those votes accumulate into a new identity. This is the insight that changes everything. Quiet discipline is not about completing tasks. It is about becoming a person. When you show up to practice English every day, you are not just adding vocabulary or improving grammar. You are building the identity of an English speaker. You are becoming someone for whom English practice is simply what you do. And here is what makes this so powerful. Once your identity shifts, maintenance becomes effortless. You do not have to fight to practice English anymore, because English practice is part of who you are. The discipline is no longer a burden. It is an expression of yourself. Part 3. The compound effect of daily practice. Here is the mathematics of quiet discipline. And the numbers are more exciting than most people realize. If you improve at English by just 1% every day, at the end of 1 year you will be 37 times better than when you started. That is not an estimate. That is mathematics. 1% daily improvement, compounded over 365 days, equals 37 times improvement. This is what researchers and economists call the compound effect, and it applies to language learning with remarkable precision. Most people dramatically overestimate what they can achieve in 1 week of intense study and dramatically underestimate what they can achieve in 1 year of consistent daily practice. A 2-hour study session feels productive, but 20 minutes of focused daily practice, every single day for a year, produces vastly superior results. 7,300 minutes of consistent practice versus sporadic bursts of effort. Research from University College London found that it takes an average of 66 days to form a new habit, not the commonly cited 21 days. But once formed, habits require almost no mental effort to maintain. The energy cost of discipline decreases dramatically as the habit solidifies. And the returns on your practice keep compounding year after year. For English learners, this means that the most important thing you can do today is not study for 4 hours. It is commit to 20 focused minutes every single day. That commitment, honored consistently, will transform your English in ways that no amount of sporadic intense study ever could. Small and consistent beats large and occasional. Every single time. Part 4. The architecture of daily practice. Knowing that daily practice matters is not enough. You need to build the architecture that makes daily practice happen automatically, even on the days when your motivation is nowhere to be found. The most effective structure, supported by decades of habit research, is the implementation intention. This means deciding in advance exactly when, where, and what you will practice. Not, I will practice English tomorrow. But, every day at 7 a.m., at my desk, I will spend 20 minutes listening to English and writing down 5 new words. Research by Peter Gollwitzer at New York University found that people who formed specific implementation intentions were 2 to 3 times more likely to follow through on their goals than people who just expressed a general intention. The specificity is not perfectionism. It is neurological. When your brain has a clear, specific plan, it does not need to make a new decision each day. The decision is already made. Execution becomes automatic. Stack your English practice onto an existing habit. This is called habit stacking, another concept from behavioral science. If you already drink coffee every morning, add your English practice immediately after. The existing habit becomes the trigger for the new one. Your brain connects them together, and soon the new habit fires automatically whenever the old one does. And protect your practice time as if it were a non-negotiable appointment. Not something you do if you have time. Something you do because it is scheduled, and scheduled things happen. Put it in your calendar. Tell the people around you. Make it real and public and committed to, not just a vague intention in your head. Part 5. Discipline over intensity. Here is a mistake that almost every English learner makes at some point. They confuse intensity with progress. They study for 4 hours on Saturday, exhaust themselves, then do nothing for the rest of the week. And they wonder why they are not improving as fast as they expected. The research is clear on this. Spaced repetition beats massed practice for language learning. Your brain consolidates new information during the intervals between learning sessions, not during the sessions themselves. Practicing every day, even briefly, gives your brain daily opportunities to consolidate and strengthen what it is learning. A study from the University of Waterloo found that reviewing material at intervals of 1 day, 1 week, and 1 month produced retention rates of over 80%, compared to less than 30% for single concentrated study sessions. The timing of your practice matters as much as the volume. This is wonderful news for busy people. You do not need to find large blocks of time to improve your English significantly. You need to find small, consistent windows. 20 minutes in the morning. 10 minutes during lunch. 15 minutes before bed. These brief, regular touch points with the language are more powerful than infrequent marathon sessions. Intensity has its place. Immersion periods, intensive courses, focused practice sprints can all accelerate your learning. But they only work when they are built on a foundation of daily consistent practice. Without that foundation, even the most intense learning fades quickly. With that foundation, every intensive experience compounds on everything you have already built. Part 6. The identity shift. Here is where quiet discipline becomes truly transformational. It is not just about developing a skill. It is about changing who you are. And changing who you are is the most powerful thing you can ever do. Most people try to change their behavior without changing their identity. They say, "I want to be the kind of person who speaks English fluently." And then they try to force new behaviors while still seeing themselves as someone who struggles with English. But behavior and identity are deeply connected. And identity always wins in the long run. The approach that actually works is identity-based. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone who is trying to learn English, but as someone who is an English learner. Not as someone who sometimes practices, but as someone whose daily practice is simply part of who they are. This shift is subtle but profound. Every time you sit down to practice, remind yourself, this is who I am. I am someone who practices English every day. I am someone who shows up for their growth. I am someone who honors their commitments to themselves. These sentences are not affirmations. They are identity statements. And over time, they become true. Research by Carol Dweck on growth mindset shows that people who believe their abilities can be developed through effort and practice achieve significantly more than those who believe their abilities are fixed. This is not just about positive thinking. It is about the neurological reality that belief shapes behavior, and behavior shapes capability. When you believe you are becoming an English speaker, you act like one. And when you act like one, you become one. Part 7. Discipline and self-compassion. Here is something that might surprise you. The most disciplined people are often the most self-compassionate. Not the most self-critical. Not the harshest on themselves when they miss a day. The most forgiving. This seems counterintuitive. Should not discipline mean holding yourself strictly accountable? Should not it mean punishing yourself when you fail to follow through? Research by Kristen Neff at the University of Texas shows exactly the opposite. People who respond to failure with self-compassion, who treat themselves with the same kindness they would offer a good friend, bounce back faster, maintain higher motivation, and achieve more consistent results over time. Self-criticism after missing a practice session does not make you more disciplined. It makes practice feel aversive. It creates a negative emotional association with the activity you are trying to build into a habit. And negative emotional associations make habits harder to form and maintain. Self-compassion does the opposite. When you miss a day and respond by saying, "That is okay. I missed one day. I will show up tomorrow," you are protecting the positive emotional relationship with your practice that makes consistency feel sustainable rather than punishing. The goal is not perfect attendance. Missing a day occasionally is not failure. Missing 2 weeks is a choice. The difference is whether you respond to a missed session with judgment or with grace. With judgment, you are likely to miss more sessions. With grace, you are likely to come back stronger. Part 8. Discipline in English specifically. Let us get specific about what quiet discipline looks like for English learners. Because discipline without direction is just exhaustion. You need to know exactly where to direct your daily effort for maximum results. The 3 most impactful daily English habits, supported by research in applied linguistics, are listening, speaking, and reviewing. Not grammar study. Not memorizing word lists. Listening to natural English input at or slightly above your level. Speaking, even to yourself, every single day. And reviewing vocabulary using spaced repetition systems. Research by Stephen Krashen shows that comprehensible input, English you can mostly understand with some effort, is the single most powerful driver of language acquisition. 20 minutes of focused listening to natural English every day will do more for your fluency over a year than almost any other activity. Speaking to yourself in English for even 5 minutes a day, a technique called self-directed speech, builds the neural pathways of fluent production. You do not need a conversation partner. You can narrate your day in English. Describe what you see. Argue with yourself about something you believe in. The brain does not care who is listening. It cares that you are using the language actively. And reviewing new vocabulary every day using an app that spaces repetition intelligently, like Anki, means that the words you learn today will be reviewed tomorrow, then in 3 days, then in a week, then in a month. At each review, the memory becomes stronger. After 5 reviews, research shows retention rates of over 90%. Disciplined review is the difference between words that stick forever and words that disappear overnight. Part 9. When discipline becomes freedom. Here is the paradox that most people do not discover until they have practiced discipline long enough to experience it. Discipline does not limit freedom. It creates it. When you lack discipline, you are at the mercy of your impulses. You do what feels easiest in the moment. You avoid what feels uncomfortable. And slowly, the life you want drifts further away because you cannot consistently do what is required to build it. But when you have discipline, when you have built the habits that take you toward your goals automatically, you are free in a profound way. Free from the constant internal argument about whether to practice or not. Free from the guilt of knowing you said you would do something and did not. Free from the anxiety of watching your goals recede while your habits stay comfortable. There is also a specific kind of freedom that comes from fluency in English. The freedom to communicate with people across the world. To access information in the most widely published language on earth. To pursue career opportunities that require English. To connect with cultures and ideas that your native language cannot fully reach. This freedom is not given. It is built. One disciplined practice session at a time. The discipline required to become fluent in English is not a sacrifice of your freedom. It is the price of admission to a much larger world. And every day you practice, you are paying that price and buying yourself a little more of that world. Part 10. You are more disciplined than you think. Here is what I want you to know before we end. You already have more discipline than you give yourself credit for. Every day you wake up, you are exercising discipline. Every time you go to work or school, you are exercising discipline. Every time you take care of the people you love, You are exercising discipline. Discipline is not a personality trait that some people have and others do not. It is a skill that is already present in you, applied to certain areas of your life and not yet applied to others. The only question is whether you will choose to direct it toward your English. You have done hard things before. Things that seemed impossible until they became familiar. Things that required effort until they became automatic. Your English fluency is the next hard thing on that list. And it will follow exactly the same path. Difficult, then easier, then natural, then effortless. Every champion, every master, every expert in any field has one thing in common. They kept showing up when others stopped. Not because they were superhuman, but because they decided, one day at a time, that showing up was what they did. And that daily decision, made thousands of times over months and years, is what transformed them from beginners into experts. You are at the beginning of that transformation. And it is a beautiful place to be. Final message. Quiet discipline is not glamorous. It does not trend on social media. Nobody applauds you for the 20 minutes of English practice you completed at 7 a.m. before anyone else was awake. Nobody celebrates the vocabulary review you did on a Tuesday evening when you were tired and could have watched television instead. But those invisible moments are where everything is built. In the quiet, unglamorous, unsexy daily practice. In the hours and days when you showed up not because you felt like it, but because you decided it mattered. That is where fluency lives. That is where confidence is born. That is where the person you are becoming is shaped, one small consistent action at a time. You are not waiting to become someone. You are already in the process of becoming. Every practice session, every English word, every brave conversation is proof of that. And 1 year from now, if you honor the discipline you have available to you today, you will look back and hardly recognize how far you have come. So from today, choose discipline over motivation. Choose consistency over intensity. Choose the small daily action over the dramatic occasional effort. And let your English be the field where you prove to yourself, once and for all, what you are capable of when you decide to show up. Something inside you is ready for this. Something inside you has always been ready. The only question is whether today is the day you begin. Now I want to hear from you. Write one English sentence in the comments. Tell me this. What is one daily habit you are going to commit to for your English starting today? One sentence. One commitment. Simple English. Your real promise to yourself. I read every comment carefully. If this video helped you, subscribe to Gentle Wisdom. And remember, you do not need to feel ready. You just need to begin. See you in the next video.